Window World, the official windows of the Kansas City Chiefs, presents Kevin Keatsman Has Issues online at windowskansascity.com.
For most of July, we don't get a lot of opportunities to lead with sports on the podcast, but we'll do so today. I try every week, as so many of you say, you either like the sports part or the news part better. I try each week to have something where I'm leading with sports, and when football season comes around, we probably lead with sports more often than we do with news or politics, but that's definitely not the case through much of late June and July when sports in the U.S. are just really at a screeching halt and not a lot going on. But we got some stuff for you today. We got some interesting Patrick Mahomes news. We got some Chiefs news, some controversy with a wide receiver tweeting out about Chiefsaholic, the alleged bank robber, and Mahomes doing a sit-down and talking with People magazine about his family and things like that. We've also got the Netflix show starting up on Wednesday called Quarterback. More on that coming in a bit. We'll start with the All-Star game that I watched on Tuesday night, and the outcome really isn't everything, but there were a couple of remarkable things here in the years-long streak for the American League over the Nationals in this game. The Nationals finally won one, 3-2, and the most astounding thing happened in this game when the National League got the home run from Elias Diaz in the 8th inning, the Rockies catcher, who's 32, making his first appearance in the All-Star game. It was a very cheap home run. I think somebody said it only went 350 feet. When he homered in the 8th and the National League took the lead, I couldn't believe it when Joe Davis, the announcer on Fox, said, "This is now only the 4th inning in 9 years of this game that the National League has led." Look, I know it's an exhibition game, and I know not everybody is trying to win because you just don't rotate your roster in a game that you're trying to win, which they do in this. So it was a strange thing, but you got to admit it means something. I don't know exactly what it means about the American League, but it meant something, and I've never heard anything like that. So 9 years, and I think there was an extra innings game in there before the rules changed. So we're looking at 80-some innings over 9 years where the National League led for a total of 4 innings out of 80-some. Simply astounding, but it was fun to watch because there were fun interviews in this game. And there's a really, I'll say attractive because some of the, the baseball players are good-looking young guys. There's an international flair. There's certainly a big diversity flair to the sport of baseball and those who play the game. But, man, there's some personalities. There's some really... for the longest time, baseball was considered to be the game where the dumber guys played it. It wasn't really football. People looked at football and said, well, they went through 4 years of college, so they got some education, they had some structure. Baseball players back in the day just got drafted out of high school. You're 18 years old. You go out on the road, you start drinking, you start running around with girls, you live a wild life, and maybe you're good enough to make it to the big leagues, maybe you're not. And so there weren't a lot of players that came into the major leagues with, sort of a grasp and a handle on how things work. Now, and maybe social media is a big part of this, they just put the earpiece and the microphone on player after player after player in this game, some of them very young in their early 20s, and they were on TV while playing out in the field, mostly, although one of the hitters had a microphone on in an at-bat, and you could hear him say hi to the umpire and good evening and all that stuff. It was really cool as they're going through all this. And all I could think of was, what a bunch of bright, personable young dudes they have in baseball. And then I asked myself, why isn't this more noticeable? Is this a Kansas City thing? Is it that we don't have players like that here? I mean, Bobby Witt's a good young player. The Royals have some fine young players. It's not that they don't. They have some fine players, not all-star necessarily caliber players or superstar caliber players. And I started wondering if it's an issue that we have here or if baseball just does a terrible job of getting these young, personable people out in front of the fans. I don't know. And a lot of this is left up individually to the players on social media. Maybe the players' union works with these players and tries to do this. But baseball does not have an image problem. They're making changes to the game to make it better. So they're not really dealing from a deficit situation. It's not like baseball is considered a bunch of bad dudes or anything like that. How can, when you play 162 games, how can a team take its brightest stars, most personable players, and make them more of personalities? And that's clearly what was on display in this All-Star game, because The game for me when I was a kid, when I was younger, was really simple. It was about spot the Royals uniform. Where's my Royals player? There have been many years where multiple Royals players were in the game. There's plenty of years like this year where there was only one. Salvador Perez was in the game. He went 1 for 2, and he scored a run. He pinch hit and played DH and got a couple of at-bats. He's a Hall of Famer to be, and he was 1 for 2 in the game and factored in the good play for the American League. But I always used to look for the uniforms, and the uniforms were half the fun. Now, they've just erased that. These uniforms were a disaster in this game last night. At least the American League team, when wearing all the same colored hats, had the logo of their team, at least on their hat. The National League team, when they came to the plate, had an N on their helmet, and you had to look on their sleeve to see which team they were with. It was really, really difficult to tell when Diaz hits the home run. If you don't know that he's the catcher for the Rockies, you're trying to figure out what's going on. And maybe they mentioned it when he come to the plate, but maybe you didn't follow that part or whatever. I mean, this game was really a contrast. Like, the uniforms were made completely for people that are totally into baseball and know every single player on the All-Star game. And then the interviews and such were completely the opposite. It was like they were reaching out to people who are casual baseball fans and trying to personalize it. They need more of that. And I think they should probably promote the teams a little bit better than they did in this All-Star game. But there were fun interviews. A couple of them were duds. A couple of the guys they swung and missed. And a couple of them, to be honest, I got in a lot of trouble many, many, many years ago when Tony Pena was the Royals manager and said, I won't have him on. I famously said, I will not have him on my radio show. Because if I have him on my radio show, everybody will change the channel. You can't understand a word he says. You can't. This is an English broadcast that I do, and Tony Pena doesn't belong on it. I took a lot of heat for that. That's when people really started to know that I was sort of political too. To me, that wasn't political. That's protecting my broadcast. It would be of no service to you if I brought on a Spanish or French-speaking guest on this podcast. Even with an interpreter, it's painful. We all know it's painful. Let's just be honest about it. So on this night, a couple of the interviews they tried to pull off were just a little too thick in the accent, almost needed subtitles or something on the screen because you just couldn't quite pick up on all of it. That's not necessarily anybody's fault other than the producers at Fox who decided to have somebody on with a thicker accent. I would suggest to you that maybe that's the reason they didn't have Salvador Perez on, or you'd stay away from it. I think Salvador Perez, I've said this many times, he's worked really hard at speaking English. He's become an American citizen. He's done all the right things. I love Salvador Perez. I think if he weren't from Venezuela, if he were from Blue Springs and grew up speaking nothing but English, I think he might still be hard to understand. He has what I call a thick tongue, and so it's hard for him to sort of speak clearly. I think probably if you spoke Spanish, you'd say he's a little hard to understand in Spanish too. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make about Salvi. But my God, he was smiling all night. He's just the greatest guy ever, and a phenomenal baseball player, and a great American success story, immigrating and bringing his family with him and coming to the U.S. We just love that story and love seeing Salvi in the All-Star game. It was fun. By the way, Diaz, who hit the home run to win the game, was pinch hitting for former Royal Jorge Soler, who is in the All-Star game. A little food for thought. There you go. Enjoyed the All-Star game. Oh, the Chiefs report to camp July 18th. We're inside a week. That's the rookies. The veterans on the 22nd. And on the 23rd, it's open house. It's $5. So we are a week from Sunday. 15th, 2 weeks. A week from this Sunday, the Chiefs will have an open house in St. Joe. $5 to get in, and they're going to have a practice open to the public. Next week, the rookies will report. Toward the end of the week, the veterans will report. That's kind of fun. We have a couple of off-the-field stories taking place with the Chiefs this week, not the least of which is Chiefsaholic, the ridiculous alleged bank robber who is obviously, he's been caught on camera, robbing multiple banks throughout the Midwest, funneling millions of dollars through Kansas City area casinos, and then going online and bragging about what a great professional is and how smart he is at a young age to have all this money. Can't make these stories up. This could be a movie someday. It certainly could be a 30 for 30 documentary on ESPN. It'd be a wonderful one. And it's probably meant as a joke, so I'm not going to get really heavy here on Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but the Chiefs' offseason's been I'm amazed when I covered the Chiefs how buttoned down everything is and how they take care of everything and everybody watches what they say and do. And then I'm amazed in the offseason what they do now on social media and the freedom that they have. Kadarius Toney has completely embarrassed the organization and himself this offseason. If you haven't followed this player, he has posted one thing after another on social media, F-bombing and throwing N-words at Giants fans, the Giants organization, flashing his ring, showing off, making fun of them. It is vile. It is disgusting. It is immature. It's awful behavior. I don't care. This is not a cultural thing, and I am not being a get-off-my-lawn old man, okay? This is embarrassing for the Kansas City Chiefs that Kadarius Toney has gone out there and made these videos. They are disgusting. They're vile. They're awful. He's getting into, like, social media fights with haters and calling them the N-word and F-bombs and all this other stuff. It's really, really awful. Like, you probably haven't seen it. You probably don't want to see it. This guy is he's portraying himself as a gangster and a thug. That's what he's portraying himself as. I'm gangster, I'm thug, I'm cool. I got a Super Bowl ring and FU N-words and all this other crap. It's awful. And I can't believe the Chiefs can't stop it somehow. Or somebody hasn't called him and said, hey, enough. I don't get it. It's just been vile. So that I will be tough on him because it's pretty easy to see why the Giants unloaded the guy. Can he be a great player here? Do the Chiefs always have 2, 3, 4 bad guys on their roster? I've said this for decades. Good coaches can handle a handful or less, 5 players or less. Good NFL coaches can handle 5 or less thugs on the team. I mean, real douchebags, guys that are complete problems, don't fit in with anybody else, are out there on their own, divas, whatever you want to call them. You can handle those. And I'm not talking about big personalities. I'm not talking about Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce was trouble early, but he's not anymore. Okay, he's out of that category. I mean, he got kicked out of a game one time for throwing a flag at a ref, for crying out loud. Travis Kelce was a problem early, but they saw the talent and said, we'll deal with this. He'll grow up. I think that's what they're doing with Kadarius Toney. I think they're looking at him and saying there is so much talent here. Let's just deal with the crap of his immaturity and try to, raise him a little bit. They tried that with Tyreek Hill. It didn't completely work out. Then Tyreek Hill outpriced himself. Whatever. Okay, that ship has sailed. But they see Toney in the same way. They think he is going to be a great player and worth dealing with all this stupid stuff. But it's been an ugly offseason for Kadarius Toney. You want to talk about a bad winner. This guy's a bad winner. He's had the greatest thing ever happen to him. He got drafted high, made a bunch of money, got traded to a Super Bowl winning team, scored a touchdown, could have just taken the high road all the way in the offseason, worked hard and thought, I'm coming back. I'm really going to show him. I'm going to go the season uninjured. I'm going to have a breakout year. This is going to be phenomenal. No, he hasn't done that. He's embarrassed himself and the team. I don't think that's what Marquez Valdez-Scantling was doing. I don't think that's what he had in mind. And he was probably just, more than anything else, just uninformed. There's a lot of uninformed people on Twitter. So Marquez Valdez-Scantling attaches a story about Chiefsaholic getting arrested for his alleged crimes. And it chronicles everything he did. And if Marquez Valdez-Scantling had read the story that he attached and put in there and was talking about and knew the information, I don't think he would have posted what he posted. What he posted was really simple. It said the words free the, and then a picture of a goat. So he's calling him the greatest Chiefs fan of all time. And he may historically be the most famous Chiefs fan of all time. That's possible. We'll see as time goes by if this becomes a documentary or, a bigger story than it's been to this point so far. But it does involve, there's going to be an attachment here. It does involve a Super Bowl team, right? He's at the Super Bowl and following one of the a dynasty era of the Chiefs. And then what he did is epic for sure. So Marquez Valdez-Scantling is getting heat all over the place about posting free the GOAT as it pertains to Chiefsaholic. Again, I think he's probably just uninformed, was trying to be funny. It was trying to be a clever joke. I'm okay. Unless there's more, unless Marquez Valdez-Scantling steps up and says, no, I'm serious, this isn't right, he's one of us, we got to let him out, then that's a real problem. But I think this is just kind of a social media post. But man, there's a lot of people that are like, whether this is a joke or not, that's not right, because this is a pretty serious thing that Chiefsaholics been out there doing. At the same time, Patrick Mahomes, I assume, is playing in the American Century Championship this week in Lake Tahoe, the celebrity golf tournament. Travis Kelce plays in that as well. And then it's training camp next week. Mahomes did a sit down, and this is a funny quote. He did a sit down with People Magazine. And People Magazine is wanting to do, a family profile. Hey, the Mahomes at home kind of thing, which is starting up with Netflix today. It is available today on Netflix. The series is called Quarterback. They dropped a 4-minute trailer yesterday, and it looks really good. It's Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota. Netflix, Peyton Manning's production company, followed them for the entire season last year, and it's going to be in episodes. There's going to be weeks of this playing out through training camp and such. So it starts today. The first episode is dropped today if you have Netflix. And I'm thinking about signing up for Netflix. I don't have Netflix. I'm thinking about signing up for it because I want to see the PGA Tour thing as well. Maybe I'll do the free trial and just bust through a bunch of it. Maybe I'll wait a few weeks and bust through a bunch of it all at once and not stick with it because I just don't need more content. I don't think. But I don't know if I can live without seeing Quarterback. I'm not sure because it looks like it's going to be very, very, very well made. Along those same lines, Mahomes sits down with People Magazine, and they asked him how he's been able to handle all the success and demands on his time and things like that. And he said, quote, I have a great wife that helps out a ton. She helps a ton by taking stuff off my plate. And I think that's a wonderful thing to say. And I think she probably does take some things off his plate. But he's also got people for that. And he's got a lot of staff and agents, and they know how to, they have done a remarkable job navigating him through the right and the wrong. Okay, you can do this. You should be involved in this. This is a good business opportunity. This is good for your image. Do this commercial, that, whatever. He doesn't say no a lot, let's be honest. They've done a nice job navigating him through this. The only mistake Patrick Mahomes made is long forgotten. He supported BLM. And I'll bet he wishes he had it back. But everybody was supporting BLM. The league asked him to do a PSA. Do you remember this? The league asked Patrick Mahomes to do a public service announcement supporting Black Lives Matter and NFL Cares and all this other crap that was going on at the time. The league has now, Black Lives Matter is a disaster. I mean, it's the organization's a complete and utter failure. It's a disaster. They're thieves. They should go to jail. It was a Ponzi scheme. So, and we know what it was, and history will not judge it well, okay? It was a time and a place in America where just people are scared, and they'll go along with anything because they think it's the right thing to do, and Mahomes got caught up in that, and that's not who he is. I hope going forward, and we've now seen several years of Mahomes not being involved in anything, I mean nothing political, zero, or issues. He doesn't get asked a lot by these things anymore. And it's a good thing because I don't think you want to ask him. At some point, he's growing up, he's raising a family, he's seeing things. He's going to see the enormity of the tax bill that he pays every year. Okay, he probably has already noticed that, but it probably doesn't bother him as much at this point because it's all still so new and fun. There will be a point when this man's 35 years old and he looks back and goes, good God, I've paid $400 million in taxes, and he's going to have an opinion. I can't wait to hear what they are because I know this. He's going to be a conservative, and a lot of quarterbacks are. And I'm wondering if that will come through in the Netflix thing. I can't wait to see it and see if that comes through. Hey, we're brought to you today by Advanced Medical Imaging online at medimageks.com. See what's inside. If you need an MRI or a CT scan, don't let your hospital chain or your doctor tell you got to wait 3 weeks. That's ridiculous. Advanced Medical Imaging will work with your insurance company. They take all major insurance. Or if you want to get the heart scan done, that's off insurance, but it's less than $100 to do a heart scan and find out your plaque score. It's all in one great brand new medical facility in Lawrence, medimageks.com. That's medimageks.com. All of our sponsors are at thekklist.com. That's www.thekklist.com. You can see them all right there. Advanced Medical Imaging. We're going to get you healthy here today. North Kansas City Dental would love to make sure your teeth are healthy, or maybe you'd like to whiten them a little bit. They'll help you with that as well. For all your regular dental care needs, even if it's implants, cosmetic, crowns, veneers. Got Dr. Bush put a veneer on my front tooth. TMJ, some of you have incredible pain from sleeping or grinding at night. They can help you with all those things. Online at nkcdental.com. Call 816-471-2911 and make the switch to the dentist who does all of the Chiefs, players and coaches and staff, and, well, you know he's an American patriot. Dr. Bill Bush. This is your guy. North Kansas City Dental, online at nkcdental.com. Amini's outdoor furniture tent sale taking place right now. If it's in stock, it is discounted. 4 locations of Amini's: Overland Park, St. Louis, Tulsa, and Oklahoma City. They have everything for your home: area rugs, game room, outdoor, and lighting for your bar. Guys, they got bar stools. Great selection of bar stools. Football season's coming up. Fix up that man cave and game room. How about a new Golden Tee machine or a pool table? I got a sweet shuffleboard table in my new man cave when I built the house. I was just dying to have a space for a shuffleboard table. I love it. Amini's is the only way to go. 105th and Metcalf in Overland Park. And I told you we're getting you healthy. How about Fry Orthodontics? Dr. Jeremy and his team have 13 locations for you. And you know they offer Invisalign for the same price as braces, and almost nobody does that. Get your smile for life right now at Fry Orthodontics. Have a teenager in your family looking to get that perfect smile for life? This will give them incredible confidence as they go forward. FryOrthodontics.com. Your first appointment is absolutely free. Okay, it's tough being at the top. Yeah, it's tough at the top, right? It's, they've always argued, is it harder to get there or harder to stay there? Well, I always think it's harder to get there. Nobody stays there. You may, like Tom Brady, like Bill Belichick hasn't stayed there. When he had Tom Brady, he was winning. And when he hasn't, he hasn't. So it's hard to stay there. But it's tough at the top. Life at the top means sometimes you're getting all the arrows and bullets fired your way. University of Georgia football is finding this out. University of Georgia football has been scandal-plagued the last few years, and we haven't seen it much here because we don't live in that area. I follow Georgia football closer than I follow most teams not in our area because my daughter went there. They've had a terrible car wreck. They lost a player, a staff member. They have had incidents with players. They've had a string under Kirby Smart as the head coach. They've had a renegade string to them. We don't care. We're getting the best players. We're going to beat everyone. And they've done that. And now the Atlanta Journal-Constitution has decided, and maybe this is an attack on football. I don't know exactly what it is, but I support stories like this. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution has chronicled in what I think is, if it's accurate, an outstanding piece of journalism, chronicling over the last couple of years, 11 different players on one football team accused of assaulting women. That's out of control. We just watched Northwestern's coach get fired because of a scandal in his own walls between his players and hazing. And Kirby Smart is running a program that has allegedly, according to this story, had 11 different players the last couple of years assault women. That is off the charts out of control, and clearly a head coach has to be responsible. The story goes on to say many of these players have never been dismissed, and they continue to play football, which is ultimately everyone's problem. Yes, you want to have a community where women are not being assaulted, for sure. But when they are, at the very least, what you want to see is some punishment for the person who's been accused. Now, I also look at this through a very clear lens of there is a growing number of claims in this country because it's easy for women to claim something against someone to do harm to them. If you're a scorned ex-girlfriend, he cheated on you, now he's with somebody else, it is easy to accuse a dude and get him into real trouble. I mean real trouble, unsubstantiated. The growing number of cases, and this would be an excellent story in journalism that you won't see, the growing number of cases around America where someone is accused of something and nothing is found is alarming. So I cannot speak to these 11 cases. And the University of Georgia is firing back, and they're wanting a retraction from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I mean a complete retraction. Take the whole thing back. The university says there are errors, unsubstantiated allegations, and possibly even fabrications, unquote, and they want a complete retraction by the Journal. Now, the word that bothered me in the statement from Georgia that leads me to believe this is more true than not, and it does look like an excellent piece of journalism at first glance. I just read it, and it looks great. The thing that jumps out at me is the last thing Georgia said. They said, well, errors, unsubstantiated allegations. Okay, those are abstract comments. An error can be a typo. Like I've seen people say there's errors in the story and we want a retraction or a correction, and it's an E before I instead of an I before an E. It's a typo or something. Any English major could probably take a story and pull it apart and say there are grammatical errors or something wrong with the way this is written. God only knows what they could do with me in this podcast and the way I speak, which isn't always proper English. But when they say at the very end, and possibly even fabrications, that's the tell. Like poker players can tell on other poker players. Their pitchers, sometimes guys in the dugout have a tell on what pitch is coming. I've been in this game long enough. I can read a tell every time. When Georgia, the university, put in to their claim, their final statement, we're planting this flag, and possibly even fabrications, there are no fabrications. I'll guarantee you right now there are no fabrications. There may be an error. There may be an allegation by somebody that's not accurate because they're lying. Okay, that's not the Journal's fault. These women, when they come forward, alleged victims or whatever, are protected under law. You don't have to give their name. If somebody anonymously is out there making up crap against a person and it's in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, unfortunately, right now in journalism in America, there is nothing we can do about that. There's just nothing we can do. And the Journal's going to run it. They're going to say this person was with this guy and alleges this happened, and they don't even have to give her name. And there is no double sourcing because it's just the two of them. And this alleged thing happened. And in many of these cases, there are charges. And certainly if there are charges or allegations, that's news. This is going to be interesting to follow. And it'll be interesting to see how it affects the University of Georgia football team. I know this. It's on Georgia to prove the fabrications at this point. It's not on the Atlanta Journal-Constitution to take anything back and say, hey, we got this wrong. Now, that can happen. We saw that happen this week with Business Insider. You see what Business Insider did? They corrected and retracted information from a story, a hit piece on Ron DeSantis about the migration of Floridians leaving the state because they don't like Ron DeSantis. And they have now had to admit that it was completely wrong, that they botched it and got it wrong. Now, that's just wrong on facts. That's not quoting somebody. They were wrong on the facts because they hated DeSantis. They set out to do a hit piece on him. They fabricated stuff at Business Insider. DeSantis called them on it, and they did a correction and an apology, full stop apology. I don't see that here. This is going to be interesting to see what happens with the University of Georgia. If you're wondering my thoughts on the PGA Tour and Live Golf, we had Senate hearings yesterday about this, which is a joke. I'll just tell you that. Rand Paul was the smartest guy in the room, as he usually is, as he said to the people in his 5 minutes of time, he's like, what the hell are we doing here? Talking about a golf league. We have no business looking into a private business. That's not what we're the Senate. This is stupid. I agree with him. I think the whole thing was stupid. But there were all kinds of rules and things that are coming out of how these leagues are going to merge now and what the future of golf is. And I discussed that in a patron podcast yesterday. If you want to sign up and become a patron, you can get all my thoughts on the future of golf right there. Go to kkhasissues.com, click on Become a Patron. It takes less than 5 minutes, and you are in. And everything that I have to say about that is all right there in one neat place. Hey, thanks my buddy Tim Cross at Cross Kitchens for being a great sponsor. He's getting many of you. Like I think now a pretty good percentage of his remodel jobs are coming from the podcast. You folks are awesome. When you meet him, you love him. I know you do. And I've heard from several of you that have had jobs done, and you've sent me before and after pictures. I love those. I love to see what Cross Kitchens KC is doing for you and your family, whether it's a remodeled kitchen, a bathroom, a man cave, whatever it is. Cross Kitchens is Kansas City's remodeler. Online at crosskitchenskc.com. MyPillow. Yeah, I'm so proud to have MyPillow as a sponsor here. And the way MyPillow works is it's all about the promo code. If you use my promo code, we get credit for that. If you don't use it, we don't. It's no more complicated than that. It is the maximum promo code. Also, mystore.com uses the same promo code. If you want to see great products, services, and businesses that are conservative, go to mystore.com, use the promo code KKHI, or just go to mystore.com/KKI, and it's automatic, along with MyPillow. If you're shopping at MyPillow, they got the 4 bundle right now for $99 of the 2 MyPillow 2.0s and then the travel pillows. They also have a sheet sale going on right now. Be careful when podcasting saying sheet sale, sheet sale, sheet sale too many times, because if you do that too fast, you could be in a world of spit. MyPillow.com/KKHI. I love those guys. Oh, and Advantage Termite and Pest Control. They were in the cul-de-sac yesterday, but not at my house. And I don't think they were treated. My neighbors get more treatment than I do. They're doing we've got woods back behind us. They do the full mosquito treatments back there, which we did our first year. And then Jessica thought maybe it wasn't great because, Cabo goes back in the woods or something. I don't know. She worries about the dog a lot. Their products are all pet friendly, but I love my wife more than I love Advantage. I do. And if she's worried about the dog, we're just going to take that off her list of things to worry about. So Advantage comes here and does the full pest control and everything. We just stopped spraying the woods back there, but I think they were doing that. And then I think they're around at the other. I think the whole cul-de-sac is now Advantage Termite and Pest Control is where I'm going with this, which is a great deal. And they have a referral program as well. They love it if you know your neighbors well and say, hey, this is a great conservative company. They love those referrals. When they can do 2 or 3 houses in one spot at the same time, that's a huge thing for them. There might be a discount in it if you get enough homes. Ask them about referrals and discounts. Advantage Termite and Pest Control, AdvantageTPC.com. It only makes sense. If the truck shows up, quarterly or whatever, they come here and spray our houses. If they do all 4 in the cul-de-sac in one day, imagine how much driving that saves them. Pretty cool. Advantage Termite and Pest Control, AdvantageTPC.com. They're just the best. No other way to say it. We will revisit sports for our final, but onto the news we go. And the NATO summit is taking place. And NATO has now said, what do we have, 37 countries in NATO? We're putting Sweden in there. Ooh, yeah, Sweden. Look, none of these countries are paying what they're supposed to be paying to be in NATO. They're not. We're the only ones. NATO is the United States. This is stupid, it's antiquated, and it needs to be cleaned up. Oh, no, the globalists want to expand it. Let's let Sweden in to just basically rip us off. And, of course, they've all said the final destination for Ukraine is in NATO. They're trying to piss off Putin even more. Well, Ukraine must stay Ukraine to get into NATO. Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, and others are now, a lot of Republicans are changing their stance on Ukraine. And their stance has been, we hate Russia, we hate Russia, we hate Russia. This war is good, war is good, war is good. And they're now saying, we got to bring this thing to a conclusion. We can't have a 10-year war in Ukraine and keep supporting this. It is dumb at this point. This needs to be negotiated out. We don't have a president capable of doing that. We don't. He's not capable of negotiating this thing. And if I were Putin, I wouldn't sit down at some negotiating table with Biden because I'm not afraid of Biden. And the election's coming, and he knows Biden's not going to invade, and American troops aren't coming in an election year. So there's no way to do this. So at this NATO summit, they invited golf shirt guy, Zelensky. He wears that fatigues-looking green golf shirt thing. Everybody else in NATO is wearing suit and tie. Wouldn't this have been the time to do that? I mean, he runs around like a little militant general. Is he a mini Castro? What is this guy exactly? I loved him. I just loved him in the beginning. And the more I've learned, I just can't take it. He's a socialist. He wants to be a dictator. He's not much different than Putin. He has closed churches. He has jailed people. He has jailed his political opponents. And everywhere he goes, he just gets more money. He just gets richer. He goes to NATO, and he's barking and making a scene at NATO because they're not allowing him in NATO. Because he knows if they're in NATO and Russia is in Ukraine, the NATO treaty says all countries will send troops and fight and get. Now we've got World War III. If Ukraine was in NATO today, it would be World War III. Now, If Ukraine was in NATO, it's not likely Russia would have invaded. So therein lies the problem. But clearly, Biden and his people love the war, but even the Ron Johnsons of the world now are saying, stop this thing. We got to negotiate our way out of this. Whether that means we're giving up 20% of the land or whatever, let's end this. This is an absolute joke. But Zelensky's at NATO complaining that he's not in NATO while they're just handing him more money and missiles and everything he needs. It's a joke. This whole thing is a joke. The proxy war is just stupid. Tucker Carlson had a very long show on Twitter, Tucker on Twitter, yesterday with a guest named Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is a British-American former kickboxer, professional kickboxer, who's a social media influencer or media personality. He spent 3 months in a Romanian prison, accused of forcing girls to make TikTok videos against their will. He's currently on house arrest, awaiting trial. He is a free speech warrior. And Andrew Tate says things that make liberals' heads explode. So they call him unhinged and wacko because he went on with Tucker Carlson and thanked Vladimir Putin for ending COVID. And they said some wacky theory that Vladimir Putin ended COVID. This is the most coherent, logical thing. And I said this over a year ago when the war started. When the war started, I said, well, you're not going to hear much about COVID now. We got a war going on. All right, we got out of Afghanistan, but okay, we're moving on from COVID to the war. The Democrats always have to have something to scare the hell out of you. The threat of World War III or nuclear bombs is what their play is right now because they can't do the COVID thing anymore. They had to move on to something else. And Andrew Tate sat right there with Tucker Carlson and was being asked, I think, something about the war in Ukraine. And he goes, well, first, let me start here. I really want to thank Vladimir Putin for ending COVID. You know, we're sad the war's taking place. This is terrible, what's going on. But let's give the guy credit where it's due. By invading Ukraine, COVID essentially was over. Nobody's paid attention to or cared about COVID since. And he's absolutely right. It's a timeline. It is spot on and it's global. You can see it. Like dominoes, they tumbled one country after another. All the COVID restrictions. As soon as Russia started fighting Ukraine, everybody's attention turned to that. All the money that Biden wanted to spend, all this COVID money we were doing. Let's just send it to Ukraine and spend it over there. And he absolutely nailed it. I don't know the case against this guy. He's accused of trafficking or rape or something. He doesn't seem like that kind of person to me. It seems like this is political prosecution against a right-wing, conservative, free speech warrior. So I don't know enough about that, and I didn't watch the whole podcast. But I have read the reaction on the left, and their heads are just absolutely exploding that he thanked Putin for ending COVID. And, of course, inside thanking Putin for ending COVID is not really thanking COVID. It's taking a shot, an atom bomb at everybody on the left. That really is what he was doing, and that's what drives him crazy. But Zelensky's over there. He's going to meet with Biden. They're going to have a meeting about what? About what? What more can we do? Now we're sending them controversial cluster bombs, which many countries around the world will not use because they're inhumane or whatever. We've sent cluster bombs to Zelensky because Biden went on an interview and said, well, we're out of ammo. Oh, good. Let Russia know that. Way to go, Joe. You want to talk about an impeachable offense. All the things that Trump made a phone call to Zelensky. We're going to impeach him. A phone call to Zelensky, and we're going to impeach him. Really? Joe Biden told the world we're out of ammo. So we're going to send cluster bombs. The most powerful military on earth, the president in public said we're out of ammo. So we got to send this stuff. It's unbelievable. It is absolutely remarkable the way we are monkeying around. Joe Biden's a clown. What kind of absolute disaster will a meeting between he and Zelensky be? What is the point of that? And what are they going to come up with? You got golf shirt guy and crazy grandpa meeting about what? And inevitably losing to Russia? Believe you me, even if Russia backs out, it wouldn't be long before they came back in. Ugh. Absolutely brutal. Hey, here's some good news. In Georgia, I like these stories. We love doing these. In Georgia, there's a state representative named Mesha Mainor, and she is a Democrat from Atlanta. And she just left the Democrat Party and became a Republican. And she's black. She's 48. She said, quote, "The Dem Party left me when it embraced left-wing radicalism, lawlessness, and put the interest of illegal aliens over the interest of Americans. I have nothing to apologize for," unquote. She says for 48 years, she blindly followed Democrat policies and bought into them. Growing up as a black person in Georgia, she said she just blindly followed like everyone else. And she is screaming from the mountaintops to black Georgians, do not blindly follow these people. They are not working for you. The end of the road for her was school vouchers. She is demanding school vouchers in Atlanta, which presumably are the worst schools in the state. She wants school vouchers for her people in her district, which is overwhelmingly black, so that these black kids can go to better schools if their parents can get them there and want them there. That's all she wants. And her party came to her and said, this is too much. This is not what we do. We don't want vouchers. We support public education. And she looked him in the eye and said, I support the kids, not public education. I'm in this for the kids. I want more black kids in Atlanta to succeed. The failure rate's awful here. I want them to succeed, and I don't give a damn about your teachers union. I want to help these kids. My God, we got to get this message through to black Americans. These cities are in bad shape, really bad shape, and it's been the leadership that does it. And to be honest, the brainwashing, she says it. I would just blindly followed because that's what we did. It was every fiber of our being. We just follow the Democrats. For what reason, I don't know. But Maynor becomes the first black woman Republican ever, wow, in the state of Georgia to hold office, and is now the only black GOP member out of 236 members of their legislature. That's remarkable. We need more black Republicans, and we need them on the local and regional level. And maybe this is the start of something big, because this is Atlanta, and she had to switch parties. But now that she has, everyone that voted for her because she was a Democrat is going to really watch what she's doing. And maybe that's what works. Maybe winning and switching in some of these districts is what needs to be done, because it's all fraudulent. We know it's all fraudulent. In St. Louis, the mayor, Tishora Jones, is in real hot water right now. KSDK Television filed an Open Records Act and got all of the records for the mayor in St. Louis and got her texts on her phone. Mayor Jones is a big gun control advocate. We need more money. We need more gun rules. We need more help getting guns off the street. We hate the NRA. I mean, one check thing after another on guns. Until KSDK got her phone. And she texted to someone, Chicago has strict gun laws, but it doesn't deter violence at all. This is really about investing in the people, she texted. She won't say that publicly. She later texted, I have been to Newark, New Jersey. It's the same size, the same demographic, and the same size of police force as St. Louis. I have visited there. They're not about gun control. In her text, she said they're not about gun control. They're about these programs that they've started, and they only had 48 murders last year. We had 3 times that. So she's looking at Newark, New Jersey, saying they're not about gun control as much as they are finding a way to curb the violence. It's a simple argument. And anybody who doesn't know this is just disingenuous. Bad guys are always going to get guns. There's a difference between legal and an illegal gun. They both fire. We know this. But I want to take this a step further. If KSDK, through an Open Records Act, got all the texts of the mayor of St. Louis, can we get Mayor Q's phone? I want to see the texts about me. He just tweeted about me last week. I couldn't see it because I'm blocked. I had to have people send it to me. Say, hey, look what Mayor Q's doing. He tweeted to Pete Mundo about you. I want to see what he's got in there about me. But more than that, I'm joking, tongue in cheek here. More than that, I'd love to catch him in a left-wing lie. And that's really what they are. These are just fraudulent positions that they have. There's just no way Mayor Q could have the life that the education he's had, the privilege that he's had, the opportunity that he's had, the success that he's had, and honestly think America's an unfair racist country. There's just no way he can think that. It's political expedience. Maybe he is more to the middle than we think. I don't know. Maybe he's a radical leftist. But he sure is good at politics. I know that. I just want to know if we can get his phone. I think it'd be really cool to get his phone because I'll tell you what he is. He has, and I've seen this in other powerful people in this town. The person that comes to mind immediately that he reminds me of most is Carl Peterson. Carl Peterson ran the Chiefs with an iron fist, and he was pretty good at his job. He was not great. He was pretty good. But my God, was he worried about the press and what people said and things that were going on that were completely petty that he should have never even bothered with. He hired people to monitor it for him. They recorded every radio show I ever did. They would edit clips for him and give it to him. Here's what Keatsman said today on his show. Here's what Whitlock wrote in the paper. I mean, it was an absolute obsession. And I think Mayor Q has that in him. I think he's obsessed with that too. And that can be a downfall. If I had him on the show and we just had a discussion, I'd love to have Mayor Q on the podcast. Because I don't really know Kansas City issues that well. I'm no threat to him. I've got no gotcha questions. I'm no Kansas City, Missouri policy expert. I'd like to talk to him philosophically about things, about big picture things, about a bigger run, about a national level, about America. But if we got into a back and forth discussion, and he certainly would be commenting on my career in a discussion that we'd have, I'd say, dude, if I had one piece of advice for you, don't worry about what any of us say. It's been very healthy for me, not worrying about what anybody says or does in regards to things that I do in my career. I don't care. If you can get to that point, it's a great place to be. That's just the one thing that I would tell Mayor Q, because he's not there yet. He clearly cares a lot, but it'd be fun to read his phone, wouldn't it? It would be fun. Final coming up, brought to you by Buck Roofing and Construction, online at rbuckroofing.com, 913-384-2680. You'll sleep well knowing Buck Roofing fixed the roof over your head. Joslin's Jewelry, 95th and Antioch, online at joslinsjewelry.com. Joslin's is the jewelry you recommend to your friends and family. Tickets for Less with some great July specials. Unbelievable concerts coming up the next couple months. Tickets for Less is the way to go. Try out Tickets for Less today and get extra savings when you use the exclusive promo code KKHI at checkout. See the difference today, ticketsforless.com. And Great Life Golf, I just want to give a shout out to our friends at Great Life. I hadn't played Prairie Highlands Golf Course in Olathe or Gardner. Olathe for a couple of years. The Catbacker tournament was out there on Monday. It is the best conditioned course you can play. I'm just going to tell you right now. Call them up, join, get a tee time, play, get a friend, do something. Play Prairie Highlands this year. The greens are unbelievable. The golf course is in perfect condition. They could absolutely host a PGA Tour event there right now, and it would be in the top half of best conditioned courses on the PGA Tour. I don't know a lot about golf. I know this. I know a beautifully conditioned golf course when I see it, and Great Life's got a gem out there at Prairie Highlands. Call them up, Prairie Highlands, and let them play it. You want to play that course at least once this year. I can vouch for it right now. Spectacular condition. Way to go, Great Life. Our final is Anelu Lafale. Anelu Lafale is from Hawaii. He is a high school offensive lineman, and he's going to play college football. And he narrowed it down to Arizona State, Washington, Wisconsin, and Hawaii. Luke Fickle, well, I'll get there in a moment. Instead of sitting at one of those chairs with four hats in front of him, he picks one up and puts it on his head. Anelu Lafale went down to the beach where there's a dock and beautiful water behind him. And he's live on 24/7 Sports Live college show, YouTube channel. He's live in Hawaii. And he's there with his mom and dad, and you can't see that there's four people behind him. He thanks his mom and dad. They step out of the picture. He steps to the side, and there's four of his boys, his friends, standing at the edge of the dock. And one is wearing an Arizona State shirt, one is wearing a Washington shirt, one is wearing Wisconsin, and one is wearing a Hawaii shirt. And Anelu walks up to his buddy wearing the Arizona State shirt and shoves him in the ocean. Right off the dock. Splash! Gone! Gonzo! Then he goes over to his buddy with a Washington jersey on. Off he goes. Then he walks up to the Wisconsin guy and puts his hands on him like he's going to push him in the water. And from off the screen comes another of Anelu's friend. You can't see him running down the dock and tackles the Hawaii player. And they both go flying into the ocean. It's spectacular. So he's standing there with his buddy that has a Wisconsin shirt on, and they give the W sign with their hands, and he's going to the University of Wisconsin. That, my friends, if you're going from 82 degrees and sunny in Hawaii to 12 degrees and ice and snow in Madison, Wisconsin, that is how you want to announce where you're going to college. My hat is off to Anelu Lafale. Don't know if he'll be a great player or not, but he's got to be good. He's going to Wisconsin, and Luke Fickell, the new coach at Wisconsin, has the number 18 class in America. I love that one as our final today at Kevin Kietzman Has Issues.
Thanks for listening to Kevin Kietzman Has Issues, presented by Roberts Robinson Chevrolet Buick GMC. To get exclusive patrons-only podcasts, receive a weekly newsletter, and attend in-person patrons-only parties, visit kkhasissues.com and become a patron today. This has been a production of Crooked Tail Media Incorporated.